Hi, my name is Bekki Shining Bearheart. I'm a teacher of shamanism and other things. I am also a minister of the Church of Earth Healing, and I'm speaking today with my friend and colleague Aria Walker, who is also a shamanic practitioner, teacher, and healer in multiple modalities. And Aria, I'm so happy that we're talking today about your acupuncture because I'm very excited about this work that you do. Could you say a few words about your background and how you came to do the work you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a wide range of things, as you said, and my background is in the shamanic healing. I also had about a 20-year career teaching body work and holistic healing. At this point, I have also completed a 4-year master's degree in Five Element Acupuncture. Prior to that, I was also in a master's program with a different type of acupuncture. Most people don't even realize that there are different types out there. So that's five element acupuncture is I think what we're here to focus on today.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of assuming anybody who's watching this video has a bit of background in shamanic healing and the aspects of shamanic healing. From my perspective, the way that we begin five element acupuncture is with classic depossession treatments. So in the shamanic language, we're pretty clear about what that means, that there are spirits, entities that have latched on, that there are cords connecting people, and they need to be cleared. And that is part of depossession. So when I work with somebody in five element acupuncture, we start with clearing treatments that we call internal dragons, external dragons, and aggressive energy. So those treatments are depossession from three different aspects. In Chinese culture, dragons are powerful animals, but there are allies. So it's a little bit different than in Western culture, where the dragon is maybe something that you need to fight and defeat and fend off. You get that a lot from Western mythologies. But in Chinese medicine and in Chinese culture, we have these powers within us that we want to activate to help us in our healing. So we start with internal dragons, which is activating 7 aspects, 7 dragons within us that help us to deal with things that have become our reaction, our mental, emotional body, our internal responses to things in our lives. It can go all the way back to our birth and even before our birth, that something has disrupted us and latched onto us and kind of has hold of thought processes, the way we respond to life. So the internal dragons treatment pushes those things out. It clears them and rids them of their control over us on that mental internal level. We follow that with external dragons. The external dragons treatment is the things that have come from the outside that have affected us. So those, again, can be lifelong issues. It can be parental relationships, early childhood traumas. It can be a very difficult loss or other relationship that we've had. It can also be things like environmental exposures. So if we see being caught out in the rain and the ice and the snow when you're hiking somewhere, that is an external factor. Or you have a job where maybe you are melting metals and you're exposed to extreme high temperatures. So those are things that come at us from the outside, like a car accident, like a fall, and we activate the 7 external dragons to push those things out of our system so they're not compromising us. Right. So after the internal and external dragon treatments, we have a treatment called aggressive energy. And this is to get aggressive energy out of the system. Aggressive energy is seen as anything that shouldn't be in our body at all, or it's in our system and it's moving in the wrong direction. So we have a creation cycle and a control cycle that does work with the elementals in our body. So Five Element Acupuncture in Chinese philosophy and culture, we have the elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And those need to always be harmonious and in balance with each other. So sometimes those are also controlling each other, keeping the different elements from getting out of control in our body. And in that cycle of balancing, in that cycle of control, is where we usually find the aggressive energy. It's stuck and lodged and moving in the wrong direction along that path, which can cause a whole host of difficulties. Any of these internal, external, and aggressive energy issues can cause any of the health problems, whether it's on the mental level, disruptive thoughts, emotional level, maybe getting stuck in depression, stuck in anger, or stuck in grief, any of those, or a combination of those, and the physical health problems. So anything from headaches, digestive issues, immune system responses that are inappropriate. In East Asian medicine in general, all of those issues can be caused from any level. So they can be caused from the spirit level, the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level. We don't separate those aspects.
Okay.
So aggressive energy treatments pulls any last bit of what we might call an intrusion in shamanic work. So energy lodged where it's not supposed to be, doing something we don't want it to be doing, something that is not us. And we get it through these three treatments. So when I say depossession, that's what I'm talking about. It's getting the things out that are not part of us, that can keep us from fulfilling our life purpose or even knowing what our life purpose is, as well as any of the health problems that a person can be experiencing. It is separate from a medical diagnosis.
Right.
So,
But these things, these emotional things and so on, can coexist with the physical stuff that often is like a symptom that we would see as a symptom in shamanic terms, for instance.
right. And it also works in the opposite direction. You can have a very physical cause of a physical symptom, and it can cause the mental emotional imbalance.
Right.
And that's where it's so good to address all three aspects: the internal dragons, the external dragons, and then the aggressive energy. And I didn't mention aggressive energy. Some of the things that might show up as aggressive energy can actually be treatments from other systems. So if someone has undergone chemotherapy or had to go through a round or multiple rounds of antibiotics, those can show up as aggressive energy, and often do, along the lines of any other toxic exposure. So someone who, say, is exposed to herbicides and pesticides through agricultural work, or someone who is working in their own garage at home or as a mechanic, and they're around things like antifreeze and transmission oil. Those really physical substances can also show up as aggressive energy in the system, and we draw those out as toxins. For example, during a treatment, someone who may have stopped drinking 35 years ago, but they still have alcohol in their system, sometimes you can actually smell that come out through the pores during an AE treatment. That's not unusual. It's not like they're going to be intoxicated again. It's not like it's going to trigger them to start drinking, but their body is still detoxing. So often when I talk to my patients, especially patients who have just come for acupuncture, they're not aware of shamanic healing, I will talk to them about these treatments as a detox. So
Right.
after the treatment, we treat it that way. You drink extra water, you get extra sleep. Follow-up and integration are very important. So if I was only going to see somebody once and I had this one-time opportunity, these are the 3 treatments that I would do. I would feel like I was giving them the best opportunity of a life-changing experience. However, I would continue also with some other treatments. So we have a left-right balancing treatment. Acupuncture is based on channels in the body, and we want those to be balanced on the left and the right side. So there is a treatment for testing to see whether they're balanced and then balancing those imbalances. And we also have, we call an HW, which if someone is in a life situation that they can't control and it's causing them some pain and suffering, this is a blockage in a person's system that often shows up. So we can use that to break that blockage and balance all the things that go wrong when we're not in control of the situation, especially something that's affected our lives either dramatically in the past or currently. We have other types of blockages in 5 element acupuncture. We're looking at the flow of the channels. So there are 12 organ channels. One flows into the next, and we want that to be a smooth transition so that the energy of the body can move around. Sometimes there's a block, and it's like opening doors at the end of the hallway to make sure that things keep moving. Also, in 5 element acupuncture, in the ideal situation, someone comes in about 5 times a year at the change of seasons, because each of those 5 elements has a season, which we include late summer as a season. And then we finally get to the core of what 5 element is about, which is treating a person's constitution. And we look at who a person is, helping them to manifest their life purpose in the best, strongest way that they can. So after we've done the clearing treatments, we do have an integration phase of building them up, because anybody can have a life-changing experience, but if they don't integrate that, they're going to go back to the old habits. So in that way, continued treatment supports someone. It's like someone going off to the Amazon and the rainforest and having a ceremony, and they get a download of information. They need assistance integrating that into their life and bringing it forward. There's changes they need to make, what they need to highlight moving forward, and how to understand that. Although in a treatment, even these strong depossession treatments, it's not like someone's head's going to spin 360 degrees. That doesn't happen. You know, we are still dealing with physical reality. So it can look as simple as somebody falling asleep on the table, somebody just taking a deep breath and sighing on the table. It can and has looked as intense as someone sort of shaking and trembling all over and that moving through their body, or crying, or even as strong as vomiting and that stuff leaving their system, just with using the acupuncture. Just, there's not much of a just there. It's a really powerful medicine. So it can have stronger, more extreme in the treatment room, but most of the time it's simple, it's relaxing, and profound. Sometimes a person doesn't notice it themselves and they're like, oh, well, I didn't see much of that. I just kind of had a good night's sleep that night. And everyone around them will report it's a totally different person. They completely let go of this issue that's been there for years. So it can show up in a lot of different ways, but what mostly people can expect is we talk about a feeling of coming home to oneself.
Wow. Yeah, amazing stuff. It's amazing. Yeah.
And I do like to combine it. When I do acupuncture, I do that in person with people. local, but I do a lot of long distance work as well. So some of my shamanic follow-up or my energy healing follow-up can be long distance and can dovetail with this kind of depossessive treatment. Sure.
Wow. I like the fact that you bring all those things together. I think there are many modalities that are very strong in and of themselves, but then when you begin to layer them on top of each other, um, I think it's very supportive of the healing process. So, could you talk a little bit about um, time frames? Like how often can you get this work done? Like if you're starting with the process, like can a person complete, say, those initial treatments in a week? Is that doable, or do you need to break things up? How does that work?
It's absolutely doable. So it's actually my preference to do those first 3 treatments in one session. So I will work with IDs, EDs, and the aggressive energy in one session, and then kind of encapsulate that for the person at the end of the treatment. It's also perfectly acceptable to break those into individual sessions. If I'm going to break it into sessions over the course of days or weeks, I will start with the IDs, the internal dragons, and let that stand alone. Then I will usually combine the external dragons and the aggressive energy treatment into one treatment. That can be done a day apart up to a week later. I don't like to separate those first 3 treatments by more than a week, but a couple days is fine. Yeah. And then follow-up treatments, again, I can do more than one treatment in a day, or I can give it a few days between. Follow-up treatments after the initial 3 can be a little bit longer than a week apart. It does allow that integration time. There's no harm in doing it sooner. It's not going to overpower a person. Yeah. And with these, there is some advantage to doing them closer together rather than farther apart. And some practitioners, even within the 5 element treatment, will release the person. They'll do a 3-hour or more initial intake treatment just to move through, because we're checking the pulses throughout the session in 5 elements, and we're looking for certain changes. The pulses in acupuncture, we have 12 pulses that we feel at the wrists, and they have very little to do with your heart rate, blood pressure, almost nothing. We are feeling energies that go through those 12 organ channels in the system, and ideally we want them to be in equal relationship to each other. So they'll often start out at different places, and then bring them to a nice, solid symphony where they're working together.
Right. What's your preferred way to work? I mean, if you had like a week to work with someone, say they came to you, or you were traveling and were in their location for 4 days a week, how would you see to space that out?
So for people who can take a 2-hour chunk of time, I would want to get through those first 3 treatments in the first session, ideally. If I saw that was seeming to be too much for them, like I said, I would start with that IDs treatment. And then if somebody came in 4 days in a row and we got through 4 sets of treatments, that would be fantastic. I would feel that was incredibly solid. And we could space that either all 3 of those first depossession treatments on the first day and still do the left-right balancing on the second day. And then it would depend on who they are and where they're at and what I was feeling on their pulses if we did a 3rd and 4th treatment. The 3rd treatment might move right into a constitutional building treatment. And if that were true, then I would say, let's stop there. You signed up for 4, but let's do 3 days and let that be solid. Chances are that it's likely to be a little bit more complicated, and starting to combine the work. If I got through IDs, EDs, AE on the first day, the second day I've checked their left-right balance, and that's good. The third day I've given them a really nice, solid constitutional treatment. That is a perfect time to do shamanic work. Either an ally retrieval, bringing in a new ally to work with them, because it's kind of their new you. They just came home. Let's solidify that relationship. Or if there is soul retrieval needed at that point, they are in a fantastic, healing, stable place for soul parts to come back. So that would also be a natural progression. So, if somebody came in 4 days in a row, that's where I might bring in the other energy work, demonic work.
Right.
Or if somebody comes in on day 1 and day 4, because that's what they can do, then we get to where we can.
Right. Okay. That's easy. Aria, this has been great. I so enjoyed talking to you under any circumstance, but being able to talk about the work and how powerful it is and how meaningful it is really something special. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate that you offer it so lovingly to the wider community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's always a treat to talk and spend time in any format.